welcome back to Database Content Aligner series. In this part I'm going to deal with styles. What I mean is, well, let's look at this example. This button, I think it should not have a border and I think it should not have a background. So just a cross. And I don't think that either of these buttons should have a border as well. And I want this button to have a blue background. I also would like to lighten the button whenever I hover over it. So for this purpose, we will need to create styles. We could create a style inside this grid or inside this window, but if we want truly a global style, we should use resources provided in app.xaml. And when we are done, we should have this. So no border, no background, and lightning. Again, no border and lightning. No border and lightning, and no border and blue and lightning. So first of all, we will need to create a new folder for our styles that we will add later. So new folder, styles. Then we are going to add a resource dictionary inside which our styles will be placed. First, I will create a resource dictionary for colors. Alright. So first we need a color for a blue button. So let's make a comment for blue buttons. Here we will create a color. It is going to have a key. So X:key. I will name it background light blue. And inside I will put the hash of this color. So 0787FF. But in order to use this color as a background for our buttons, we will need solid color brush that will use this color. So here I will create solid color brush. X key is going to be background light blue brush. Its color is going to be a static resource and the color that we have just created. Next, we will use this color for our blue buttons. And of course, we need a separate resource dictionary for buttons. So add a new resource dictionary. I will call it buttons. Alright, we shall start with restyling the default button. So by default, I don't want any of buttons to have a border. So let's do it right away. Create a style. Its target type is going to be X-type button. Inside we will have a setter for the property called background, and by default the value is going to be hash ddd. Then we will create another setter for its template property. So setter property equals template, and the value is going to be here. So control template, target type equals again X-type button. By default, buttons will consist of a border. So border, its background is going to template bind to the background. So we don't need to specifically say that we want to modify button.border.background. We can just use button.background because this line will bind to it anyway. And inside the border, we will have a content presenter, and by default it will be centered both horizontally and vertically. Vertical alignment equals center. Then after the template we will need to set some triggers. So style triggers. So I want two things here. First, when I hover over the button, it should be lightened up and the cursor should be hand. So in order to lighten it up, I will just decrease its opacity. But first we will need a trigger for the property is mouse over, and the value is true. So when the mouse is over, we will set the property opacity to any value lower than 1. So for example 0.8. And we will also change the cursor, and the value is going to be hand. Well, if you would like to change it to anything else, there are multiple options for you. Then we will create another trigger for when it is enabled. So is enabled, or rather when it is not enabled. So when the button is disabled, we should set the opacity to even a lower value, like 0.7. And we don't need to change the cursor. Alright, so this is going to be the default button. Let's also create a separate style for the cross button, or rather a transparent button without a border and without a background as well. Let's copy this style and paste it here. and let's give it a key. X key is going to be transparent button. So we will change the font size to 36 and the background is going to be transparent, as well as the border brush. As for its template, it will be the same, but when the mouse is over, we will set the opacity to 0.7 and change the foreground to a lighter value like hash 0787FF. So it's going to be blue when we hover over it. And when it is not enabled, its opacity is going to be equal to 0.1. And the background should be transparent, because by default, when the button is disabled, it has an ugly gray background. Next, I will create a style for a blue button. So just change the key to blue button. We don't need a large font size. As for the value, we will assign it to a static resource called background light blue brush. And its foreground should be white by default. Also, let's give it a margin of, for example, 5. As for its mouse over event, the opacity will be 0.8. We don't need to change its background to blue. When it is disabled, its opacity will be set to 0.7 and the background will be equal to hash AAA. So we have a style for our default buttons, a style for our transparent buttons. Well, namely, right now this is just a cross button, but we will reuse it later. And a style for our blue buttons, because I suppose that we will use blue buttons in multiple windows. So now it's time to include these resource dictionaries in our app resources. So go to app.xaml and here in application resources, create a resource dictionary. Inside type resource dictionary dot merged dictionaries. And here we will include 2 resource dictionaries. And here is an important moment. The order is important. So first, we will include colors and only then buttons, because our blue button uses a style which is inside colors. So let's type resource dictionary, source is styles, which is our folder, and colors.xaml, which is the file name here. And the next one is buttons. Alright, now let's go to window.by and you see that already our default buttons don't have a border anymore. So we will just add a new style here. So let's type style equals static resource and transparent button. And here it doesn't have a background anymore. And let's put here a style for the blue button. So blue button. Alright, so it is now blue and its foreground is white. And now we can check it to see whether the buttons decrease their opacity when we hover over it, and also if they have a hand cursor when our mouse is over them. So, yeah, here, and here. Alright. So now you can use these styles all over your application. If we had used these styles here or here, we would need to duplicate them in all our windows if we wanted to achieve the same behavior. So if this was helpful, please subscribe and see you later.